All right, if you're gearing up for the NMLS exam, you know you're just wading through a sea of mortgage terms. But hold on, before you try to memorize 100 different loan types, what if I told you the entire mortgage universe is really organized by just two simple, separate systems? If you can get your head around these two concepts, you won't just be memorizing, you'll actually understand the logic, which is way more powerful on exam day. So let's break it down.
So this is really the big question, right? And the answer is basically a giant filing cabinet. Every single loan gets two labels put on it before it goes into that cabinet. One label is all about whether it can be sold, and the other is all about how risky it is. Once you understand what those two labels mean, you've pretty much got the master key to the whole system.
Okay, let's tackle that first label. This one is all about one thing and one thing only: marketability. We're not talking about the borrower's credit score, the interest rate, none of that. The only question this label answers is, can this loan be easily bought and sold after it's been made? That's it.
And here's our first keyword: conforming. When you see conforming on the exam, your brain should immediately think it fits the rules. Whose rules? The big ones, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Because it fits their standardized guidelines, it's like a perfectly sized package ready to be sold on what's called the secondary market. Simple.
So, on the flip side, you've got non-conforming loans. And these are for literally any situation that falls outside that standard box. A great example is a jumbo loan. The loan amount is just too big to fit Fannie and Freddie's limits. The key takeaway here is just that. It does not meet their guidelines, so they won't buy it.
So let's boil it all down. This slide says it all. The single dividing line is whether Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac can buy the loan. Conforming loans, yes, they can be sold. Non-conforming, nope, they can't. That is the entire first sorting system. Lock that in your brain. Now let's look at the second system, which is completely different.
All right, so forget about marketability for a minute. We're changing gears. This second sort is all about safety and protecting the consumer. We're no longer asking if the loan can be sold. The new question is this loan a stable, responsible product for the person who has to pay it back? And this brings us to the really important Qualified Mortgage Rule, or QM rule. For the exam, you absolutely have to connect these dots. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? Well, that led to a huge piece of legislation called the Dodd-Frank Act, and that act created something called the Ability to Repay Rule, or ATR. It basically says lenders have to make a real, good faith effort to make sure a borrower can actually afford the loan they're getting. The Qualified Mortgage, or QM rule, is the government's official recipe for a loan that meets that ATR standard. So you see, a QM loan is just considered a safer bet. It's got stable features, it's easy to understand, and here's the kicker. In exchange for making these safer loans, the lender gets a legal protection called a safe harbor. It basically means they're presumed to have followed the Ability to Repay rule, which protects them from lawsuits down the road. This is a huge concept for the exam.
Okay, so what exactly are these rules? What does a loan need to do to get that official QM stamp of approval? Let's dive into the checklist, the stuff you've got to know cold for the NMLS exam. First step, there are some major no-nos. QM loans are not allowed to have certain features that are considered too risky. The two biggest ones you have to remember are interest-only payments and balloon payments. The exam loves to ask about these because they're the perfect example of the kind of payment shock the QM rule was designed to prevent.
Now, besides avoiding those risky features, the second massive test is all about the price tag. A loan can't be a QM if its costs are way too high. The rule is super specific about this. Its annual percentage rate, the APR, can't be too much higher than a benchmark rate called the average prime offer rate, or APOR. And just how much higher it can be depends on the loan amount, which is perfect stuff for an exam question. And here they are, the exact 2025 pricing thresholds you'll want to know. So, for a typical first lien loan over about $135,000, the APR can't go over the APOR by more than 2.25%. But check this out. See how that cap gets bigger for smaller loan amounts? That gives lenders a little more wiggle room on smaller loans. You're definitely going to want to spend some time memorizing these tiers.
And look, if you're going to burn just one number from that table into your brain, make it this one: $134,841 for 2025. This is the magic breakpoint. A loan just under this amount gets the 3.5% spread, but a loan at or above it gets squeezed down to 2.25%. The exam loves to build scenario questions right around this specific number.
So, if QM loans are the safe, gold standard, you're probably thinking, why would anyone ever make a non-QM loan? Well, the answer is one word:
Flexibility. Non-qualified mortgages play a super important role for people whose financial lives don't fit perfectly into that standard QM box.
A non-QM loan is simply any loan that doesn't check every single one of those strict QM boxes. Now, it is crucial you understand this. Non-QM does not mean bad loan or unsafe loan. Not at all. It's just a different tool, built for borrowers who need a more flexible way to get a mortgage, something the rigid QM rules just don't allow for.
Here are some perfect real-world examples. You might have a borrower whose debt-to-income ratio, their DTI, is a little higher than what the QM rules permit. Or think about a self-employed person. Their income can be complicated, so they might need a loan with less documentation. Or what about a real estate investor who actually wants an interest-only feature to help with their cash flow? Non-QM loans are the solution for all of these important situations.
Okay, that was a ton of detail, so let's pull back and make sure we've got the big picture. These are the absolute, must-know, core concepts you need to have locked in before you walk into that testing center.
This right here is the entire framework. It's two separate filing systems asking two totally different questions. System number 1, conforming versus non-conforming, is only asking, can we sell this thing? It's all about marketability. System number 2, QM versus non-QM, is asking, is this loan safe? It's all about consumer protection and that ability to repay rule.
And this is it. This is the single most important idea to take away from all this. And it's a huge trap on the exam. These two systems are totally independent. A loan gets a label from both. So, for example, you can have a giant jumbo loan, which is non-conforming by definition, that is also a perfectly safe and stable qualified mortgage. And you could have a standard, regular-sized conforming loan that has an interest-only feature, which makes it non-QM. They are two separate labels for two separate things. So, as you're hitting the books for the NMLS exam, try to focus on understanding this core system, not just memorizing a bunch of random rules. Knowing these two fundamental sorting methods is way more than just a strategy to pass a test. It's really the foundation for understanding how this whole industry works and for being able to guide your future clients with real confidence. You've got this. Good luck.